I'm writing this from a place I never thought I'd be in, trying to wrap my head around the fact that my wife, Rachel, cheated on me. It feels surreal, like something out of a bad movie. We'd been together for 5 years, married for 2, and we had plans. Big plans. I proposed to her in the dance studio where we met. She'd been passionate about dance, and I thought it was the perfect way to express my love. Little did I know that the very place that held our fondest memories would turn into a site of betrayal. Things started to feel off a few months ago. Her late-night dance classes began to stretch into hours that didn't add up. I know how much she loves dancing, but there was something eerie about her frequent absences. I brushed it off at first, convincing myself that it was just her passion taking over. But then came the subtle changes. Her phone became glued to her hand, and she started locking it. Rachel, who used to leave it lying around, suddenly became secretive. I found myself questioning the very foundation of our relationship, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. The real turning point came last week. I was at home when I received a video from a dance student named Amy. I had always viewed her as a sweet girl in Rachel's class, someone who looked up to my wife. The video had a note attached that read, "Thought you might want to see this. I didn't know you were part of their open relationship." My stomach dropped. I opened the video, and there it was, Rachel in the studio, wrapped around her dance instructor, Mark. They were laughing, touching, and honestly, they looked way too comfortable with each other. It was raw, unfiltered, and the absolute last thing I expected to see. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The memory of our proposal flooded back. I could practically hear the echo of my own words. "I promised to always be there for you." How could she do this? How could she betray me in the one place that had always felt like home? My mind raced with questions and emotions. Anger surged through me, quickly followed by heartbreak. It was so surreal. One moment I was basking in nostalgia, and the next I was drowning in pain. I decided to confront her that night. I wasn't going to let her spin some story about how it was just a dance thing or that it didn't mean anything. I was done with the lies, and I needed answers. When Rachel walked through the door, I could see that she sensed something was off. I had never been good at hiding my emotions, and this time was no different. "Hey, honey, what's up?" she asked, tossing her bag onto the couch, the same way she always did. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I realized how normal she was acting. "Sit down, Rachel. We need to talk," I replied, my voice steady but laced with a tension that was palpable. She looked at me, a flash of confusion crossing her face, but she complied. I pulled out my phone and played the video. The moment she recognized the scene, her face turned pale. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. "Are you seriously cheating on me?" Rachel's reaction was a mix of shock and defiance. "It's not what it looks like. I swear, Mark and I were just rehearsing for a routine. You know how intense things can get in dance." She was already trying to backpedal, throwing out half-baked excuses that I knew were nothing but lies. "Rehearsing? Come on, Rachel, this isn't just practice, it's sickening. You look more than just friends," I spat, anger boiling over. Her eyes darted away from me, and I could see her searching for the right words, but there were none. I didn't mean for it to happen." "It just did," she finally managed to mutter. I couldn't believe it. The betrayal was like a knife to the heart. I had trusted her completely. How could she justify this? I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. She had always been the one to talk about loyalty and commitment, and now, here she was, sitting across from me, caught in her web of lies. I needed to collect my thoughts. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming, but I knew I had to think clearly. This wasn't just about the infidelity. It was about the trust that had been shattered. As she rambled on about how it was a mistake, I felt a hollow ache deep in my chest. The emotional impact was hitting me hard. I thought about all the moments we shared, every laugh, every dance, and every promise made. How could it all just be erased by a few careless decisions? As Rachel continued to speak, trying to explain her betrayal, I felt myself retreating further into my own head. I was hearing her words, but they felt hollow and distant, like background noise in a crowded room. "You don't understand," she said repeatedly, her tone shifting to desperation, but all I could feel was the cold grip of shock and disbelief. "Don't understand what, Rachel? You've been sleeping with him. How can you even look me in the eyes and say that this was just a mistake?" My voice had risen unexpectedly, echoing in the silence of our living room. I watched as her expression morphed from guilt to anger. She was cornered and the rage was spilling out. I didn't want to hurt you. You've been so distant lately. You're always working late and I felt alone. Mark was there, he understood me. She spat out the last part, her voice rising with each word. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wait, so this is my fault. Because I've been focused on my job, you couldn't talk to me about how you felt. You had to go and fuck your dance instructor. My disbelief turned into a roar. I had thought we had a mature relationship, built on communication and trust, but somehow it had all unraveled without me even noticing. The conversation spiraled from there. We went in circles, arguing about everything from her lack of honesty to my supposed neglect. I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins, mixing with the heartache. I was angry at her, but I was also angry at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. How could I have been so blind? Do you even care about what this means for us? I asked, my voice softer now, as I tried to find a thread of hope in this tangled mess. Do you want to fix this or are you already done? Her eyes softened for a moment and I thought maybe she'd realized the gravity of her actions. But then she shrugged, a defensive posture creeping back in. I do know maybe it's too late, I don't know if we can go back to what we were. That hit me hard. The woman I loved was sitting across from me and her words felt like a death sentence to our relationship. It was like a dagger twisting and turning in my chest. I had never considered that we could reach a point where us wasn't something worth fighting for anymore. I loved you, Rachel. I was planning our future together. This is what you do. I couldn't keep the sadness from creeping into my tone. You throw it all away for a fling. She looked away, and for a moment I thought I saw regret flicker in her eyes, but it was gone just as quickly as it had appeared. It's complicated. I can't explain it. Mark is. He's different. He makes me feel things I forgot I could feel. I felt the heat of rage build up again. It was like she was romanticizing the affair, making it sound like some grand adventure instead of the betrayal it was. Feeling overwhelmed, I stood up and paced the room. You're in love with him, aren't you? I asked, the bitterness lacing my words. You have feelings for your dance instructor. I don't know, it's too soon to say. She shouted back, her frustration mirroring mine. You don't understand what it's like to be alone while your partner is busy with work. The argument dragged on, but I felt the energy sapping out of me. I wasn't getting anywhere. Each time I tried to point out the absurdity of her excuses, she'd deflect or raise some issue about our relationship. I knew we had our struggles, but this was a betrayal of the highest order, and I didn't know how to reconcile that with everything we had built together. Finally, I stopped pacing and faced her. I can't keep doing this. I need time to think. My voice was quieter now, more defeated. The weight of the situation was crashing down on me, and I knew I wouldn't get any answers tonight. I needed space to process my emotions and figure out how to move forward. Rachel's face fell, realization dawning upon her that this could be the end of us. Please, don't leave like this, we can work it out. Her voice cracked and I felt a flicker of empathy, but I was too hurt, too angry to comfort her. I needed to be alone with my thoughts. I can't stay here and pretend everything is okay, I said as I grabbed my keys and walked out. The cool air hit my face like a slap and I drove aimlessly, my heart racing. I couldn't believe this was my life now. I had trusted her completely and given her everything, and she had shattered it all in an instant. As I drove, I felt waves of emotions crashing over me. Anger, betrayal, sadness, and somehow a small part of me felt relief. I wouldn't have to pretend anymore. I didn't have to keep ignoring the signs, but what would happen next? I had no idea. Would I be able to forgive her? Could I even look at her the same way again? But for now, I needed to escape the chaos of our home. I needed solitude to think about what I wanted. I didn't have answers, but I was determined to find them. The pain was suffocating, but I knew I had to face it to figure out the next step. I just wished it didn't have to hurt this much. I spent the night driving, lost in my thoughts, trying to piece together the fragments of my life that felt like they had been ripped apart by a tornado. My mind was racing, and I kept replaying the events of the evening over and over again. I could hardly fathom that Rachel, the woman I had thought I knew inside and out, was capable of such betrayal. Eventually, I found myself parked outside a bar. its neon lights casting a flickering glow that felt strangely inviting. I knew it wasn't a good idea to drown my sorrows in alcohol, but I was desperate for an escape from the whirlwind of emotions swirling in my head. I walked in and slid onto a bar stool, ordering a whiskey neat. The burn of the alcohol as it went down felt like a temporary relief, numbing the ache in my chest, if only for a moment. As the night wore on, I chatted with a few strangers, sharing laughter and stories that felt distant from my reality. It was a broken distraction, but it was better than sitting at home, haunted by Rachel's betrayal. Still, every laugh felt hollow. I was surrounded by people, yet I felt utterly alone. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it, knowing it was probably Rachel trying to reach out, desperate to salvage what we had left. The following morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a mouth that felt like sandpaper. Groaning, I reluctantly pulled myself together and headed home, dreading the confrontation that awaited me. I had to face Rachel again. The apartment felt like a war zone, silent and tense. As I stepped inside, I found her sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. She looked fragile, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Hey," I said, my voice clipped. I didn't want to engage in small talk. "We need to talk." She nodded, seemingly resigned. "I know, I'm so sorry, but I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was stupid. I thought I could handle it, but I can't." Her voice quivered, and I could see she was still shaken by our last conversation. "Stupid? That's an understatement. You betrayed me, Rachel. You went behind my back with Mark." I felt the anger bubble up again, but I also saw the genuine remorse in her eyes. It was confusing. Did she regret her actions, or was she just upset because she got caught? "I know," she replied, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I messed up. I was feeling lonely and neglected. I didn't handle it the right way, I know that now." "Lonely?" I scoffed. "You had a choice. You could have talked to me, but instead you chose to sleep with him." The betrayal cut deeper than I could articulate. "I didn't think it would go that far," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "It was just supposed to be fun, a way to escape, but it spiraled out of control and I didn't know how to stop it." I shook my head in disbelief. "Do you realize how twisted that sounds? You thought it was okay because you were having fun." My chest tightened as I realized she was making excuses. It felt like a feeble attempt to downplay the severity of her actions. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. "What do you want, Rachel? Do you want to fix this? Can you honestly say you want to make our marriage work after everything? Because I don't even know if I can trust you anymore." She looked at me, her gaze unwavering. "I want to try. I know I messed up, but I love you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. Please, just give me another chance." The sincerity in her voice hit me, but it didn't erase the betrayal I felt. I had loved her fiercely, and now I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, contemplating whether to jump into the unknown or to cling to the safety of what we had. "I don't know, Rachel." The words came out heavy, laden with uncertainty. "Everything feels different now. I need time to think about what I really want. I can't just pretend like this didn't happen." Her face fell, and I could see the weight of my words crushing her. "I understand. I'll give you space. Just know that I'm willing to fight for you, for us. I don't want to lose you." With that, I walked away and headed to our bedroom. I needed solitude to process everything. I felt torn between the love I had for Rachel and the massive betrayal that felt like a chasm between us. I spent hours just lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying our memories, the good times that felt tainted now. As I lay there, thoughts started swirling. My mind went to the moments when Rachel and I were happiest, the laughter we shared, those late-night talks, the way she looked at me when I proposed. It all felt so perfect then, and now it was all tainted. Was it worth fighting for? Could I ever trust her again? I knew I needed to make a decision, but I felt paralyzed. My heart ached with sadness, but there was also a simmering anger that refused to go away. The future suddenly felt so uncertain. I had built my life around Rachel, and now it felt like everything was crumbling down. After hours of brooding, I finally sat up and grabbed my phone. I needed to talk to someone, to a friend who could offer perspective, someone who could help me sort through the chaos. I scrolled through my contacts, landing on Mike, my best friend since high school. He had always been my rock, and I needed him now more than ever. I sent him a text that simply said, I could really use a friend right now. Can we talk? I hit send and waited, feeling a glimmer of hope mixed with fear. I didn't know how this would all play out, but I knew I couldn't navigate this storm alone. The thought of reaching out was a small comfort, and I hoped Mike would have some wisdom to share. I just needed someone to help me find my way through the fog of betrayal and heartache. Mike responded almost immediately, asking if I wanted to meet up for coffee. I agreed, relief washing over me as I got ready to leave. Being around someone who knew me well felt like a necessary reprieve from the emotional turmoil swirling inside me. I hoped he could help me make sense of everything. We met at our usual coffee shop, a cozy little place that had seen countless conversations over the years, everything from light-hearted banter to serious life discussions. I arrived early, needing a moment to collect my thoughts before diving into the mess that had become my life. When Mike walked in, I could see the concern etched on his face. We exchanged a brief hug and then he gestured for me to sit. "What's going on, man?" he asked, his tone serious as he leaned in. I took a deep breath, unsure of where to start. "It's Rachel. She cheated on me with her dance instructor." Mike's eyes widened in disbelief. "No way, I can't believe it." "I mean, I know she loves dance, but this is a whole different level." I nodded, feeling the weight of the betrayal pressing down on my chest. "Yeah, it's been devastating. I found out through a video that one of her students sent me. I didn't even know they were involved. I thought our relationship was solid." "Wow, I'm really sorry, man. How are you holding up?" I shrugged, feeling lost. "I don't know. One moment I'm angry and the next I'm just so sad. I keep thinking about everything we've built together, and now it all feels like it's crumbling." "I loved her, Mike. I thought she loved me too." He leaned back in his chair, processing my words. "You've been together for a while. Did she say why she did it?" I recounted the conversation Rachel and I had the previous night, detailing her excuses and her attempts to downplay the seriousness of her actions. Mike listened intently, his expression shifting from shock to concern. "Dude, that's tough, but you need to think about what this means for you. You can't just sweep it under the rug and pretend everything is fine," he advised, his voice steady. "You deserve better than to be with someone who doesn't appreciate you." "I know," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, "but it's complicated. I want to believe that she regrets it and that we can work it out, but I can't shake this feeling of betrayal. And what if she does it again? Trust is huge in a relationship. If you can't trust her, then can you really have a future together?" Mike asked, raising an eyebrow. "You need to prioritize your own emotional health. It's okay to take a step back and figure out what you want." I nodded, absorbing his words. "I just don't know if I can forgive her. The whole thing feels like a betrayal of everything we stood for. I thought we were honest with each other, but now I feel like I don't know who she is anymore." Mike took a sip of his coffee, contemplating my words. "It's okay to feel lost right now. You've been blindsided. You owe it to yourself to take the time to heal. Don't rush into any decisions. Just think about what you truly want moving forward." The conversation helped me gain a bit of clarity, even if I still felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. "Thanks, man. I really needed to talk to someone. It's just hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel right now." We spent the next hour discussing everything from relationships to personal goals, and for a brief moment, I managed to forget about the chaos waiting for me back home. As we wrapped up, I left the coffee shop feeling lighter, even if just for a moment. Mike's friendship reminded me that I wasn't alone in this. When I returned home, I found Rachel sitting in the living room, her eyes glued to the floor. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I also felt the bitterness of betrayal. As I walked in, she looked up, her eyes pleading. "Can we talk? I've been thinking a lot about what we discussed." "Sure," I replied, my heart racing as I braced myself for another round of dialogue. "What's on your mind?" "I know I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to make it up to you." "I want to go to couples therapy," she suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "Therapy?" I repeated, surprised. It was a significant step, but I was skeptical. "Do you really think that would help?" She nodded earnestly. "I believe it could. I want to understand why I did what I did, and I want us to communicate better. I've been reflecting on our relationship, and I see the cracks now. I don't want to lose you." I hesitated, grappling with the idea of seeking help. I appreciate you wanting to try, but I'm not sure I'm ready to dive back into a relationship right now. I need time, Rachel. Time is fine, just please consider it, she pleaded, her eyes wide with hope. I know I messed up, but I want to show you that I'm willing to fight for us. You mean everything to me. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. Could I really move forward with her after everything? I felt torn between my love for her and the sting of betrayal. Let's take it one step at a time, I finally said. I'm willing to consider therapy, but I need to see real change, not just words. She nodded, relief washing over her features. Of course, I'll do whatever it takes, just please don't give up on me yet. As I left the room to gather my thoughts, I couldn't shake the uncertainty. The path ahead was foggy, and I knew it would take time to rebuild what had been broken. But at least I was open to the possibility of healing, however long that might take. I didn't have all the answers, but I was determined to figure it out. I needed to protect my heart while also allowing the chance for growth. It was going to be a long, winding road, but I couldn't ignore the part of me that still believed in second chances. The days that followed were a mix of uneasy conversations and awkward silences. Rachel and I began to navigate the uncharted waters of our relationship, but each day felt like walking on eggshells. The idea of couples therapy lingered in the air, and while I was open to it, I still found myself battling waves of doubt and anger. We scheduled our first therapy session for the following week, and in the meantime, we tried to communicate more openly. Rachel made an effort to share her feelings about what had happened, and I tried to express my pain without exploding into anger. It was a delicate balance, and at times, it felt like we were more strangers than the couple we once were. One evening after dinner, Rachel sat down beside me on the couch, her body language more vulnerable than I had seen in days. "Can we talk about how you're feeling? I want to understand where you're at," she asked, her voice gentle. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Honestly, I feel like I'm in a constant state of confusion. One moment I want to believe we can work this out, and the next I'm drowning in anger. It's exhausting." She nodded, her expression softening. "I get that. I'm scared too. I know I hurt you and I regret it deeply, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that I can change." Her sincerity was palpable, yet part of me remained skeptical. "And what does change look like for you, Rachel? Because I don't want to hear just empty promises. I need to see action." "I understand that. I've been reading about relationships and infidelity. I want to understand why I felt the need to cheat in the first place. I need to be honest with you and myself," she replied, her eyes searching mine. Her willingness to seek answers made me feel a flicker of hope, but I knew it would take time to heal the wounds. "I want to believe you, but it's going to take a lot more than words. Trust is built over time, and right now, I feel like I'm standing on shaky ground." Rachel reached for my hand, and I hesitated before allowing her to take it. "I get it. I'm willing to be patient no matter how long it takes. I just want us to be okay again." It struck me then that although she had betrayed me, there was still a part of her that genuinely wanted to fight for our relationship. But was that enough? The night before our first therapy session, I couldn't sleep. My mind was a chaotic mess of thoughts, the anger, the pain, and the flickering hope. I kept replaying our conversations, looking for signs that our relationship could be salvaged. The memories felt like a double-edged sword, beautiful yet painful. The following day, we arrived at the therapist's office, both of us slightly on edge. The waiting room was cozy but felt intimidating. I could see couples sitting together, some holding hands, others appearing disengaged, and it made my stomach churn. What were we doing here? When we were called into the office, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Carter greeted us warmly. Her demeanor was inviting, and I could sense that she was experienced in handling troubled relationships. "Welcome. I'm glad you both could make it. Why don't we start by discussing what brought you here today?" It felt strange to talk about our private lives in front of someone else, but I took a deep breath and began to explain. I shared my feelings of betrayal, the confusion, and the deep sadness that had followed Rachel's infidelity. Dr. Carter listened intently, nodding along as I spoke. "It's clear that there's a lot of hurt on both sides, and it's understandable to feel lost in the aftermath of such a betrayal," she said gently. "Rachel, how do you feel about what your partner is experiencing?" Rachel took a moment to gather her thoughts. I feel horrible. I never wanted to hurt him. I was selfish, and I understand how my actions have shattered the trust we built. I want to rebuild that trust, but I know it's going to take time and effort. Dr. Carter guided the conversation, encouraging us to express our feelings without fear of judgment. It felt liberating, yet terrifying, to share our vulnerabilities in a safe space. For the first time, we were addressing the underlying issues rather than skirting around them. As the session progressed, I found myself opening up more than I thought I would. I shared my fears about the future, my concerns about whether we could ever reclaim the love we once had. Each moment felt like a stepping stone, leading us toward some semblance of understanding. By the end of the session, I felt a mix of exhaustion and relief. Dr. Carter had given us homework, exercises to help us communicate better and explore our feelings. As we left the office, I glanced at Rachel and there was a flicker of hope in her eyes. "I think this could really help us," she said quietly, her voice tinged with optimism. "Maybe," I replied cautiously, "but we still have a long way to go. I'm not ready to forget what happened. I need to process it all." "I understand," she said, squeezing my hand as we walked to the car. "I'm willing to be patient and I hope you'll give me that chance." As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. Therapy had been a step in the right direction, but would it be enough? I still felt the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. The journey of rebuilding trust was going to be long and challenging, but I was willing to try. The question was whether Rachel could truly commit to the changes she promised. Trust was fragile, and I was terrified of letting myself believe in a future that could easily slip away again. But I also knew that if I wanted to move forward, I had to allow myself the space to heal, to feel all the pain, and to decide what I truly wanted for my life. With that thought, I decided to take it one day at a time. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to navigate it, no matter where it led. The following weeks passed in a blur of therapy sessions, open conversations, and deep introspection. Each session with Dr. Carter was both challenging and enlightening. Rachel and I took turns sharing our feelings, and while it was painful to revisit the betrayal, it felt necessary. We explored the reasons behind her actions, the loneliness she felt, and the ways I had unknowingly contributed to her feelings of isolation. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to be vulnerable, sharing my fears and insecurities. I had always thought of myself as strong, but the weight of Rachel's betrayal had exposed parts of me that I had never acknowledged. I was terrified of being hurt again, and that fear was something we had to confront together. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, Rachel and I sat on the couch, our bodies close but still wrapped in an air of tension. "I know we've been making progress, but I still feel this wall between us," I confessed, staring at my hands. "I want to love you again, but everything takes me back to that night. It's hard to forget." Rachel nodded, her expression serious. "I understand. I don't expect you to just move on. I want to earn back your trust. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but I need you to be honest with me about how you're feeling." "I'm trying," I said, looking into her eyes, "but it's not easy. I feel like I'm stuck between wanting to forgive you and being afraid to let my guard down. What if this happens again?" I promise it won't, but I can promise to communicate better and be more transparent with you," she said earnestly. "I never meant to hurt you, and I hate seeing you in pain. I'm committed to making this work." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. I knew that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but there was something reassuring about Rachel's willingness to open up and address the issues head-on. "Maybe we could start with small steps," I suggested, trying to encourage a way forward. "We can build trust gradually. Perhaps we could set some boundaries and check in with each other more regularly." "I'd like that," she replied, a glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. "I don't want to lose you. You mean everything to me, and I know I have to prove that." As days turned into weeks, we worked on rebuilding our relationship brick by brick. We made a pact to check in with each other daily, sharing our feelings about the relationship, our individual struggles, and the moments that made us feel connected. It was a small but significant shift, creating space for open dialogue and honesty. One afternoon, as we were cooking dinner together, the atmosphere felt lighter. We laughed and shared stories, reminiscing about the early days of our relationship. I caught myself smiling genuinely for the first time in a while, a warmth blossoming in my chest. "Remember our first dance together?" Rachel asked, her eyes sparkling. "I was so nervous, but you made me feel like I could conquer the world." I chuckled, thinking back to that moment. "I remember you stepping on my toes the entire time," I joked. "But you were so passionate about it, it was infectious." Rachel leaned closer, resting her head against my shoulder. "Those are the moments I want to get back to, the ones that remind us of why we fell in love in the first place." Her words struck a chord, and I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I wanted to remember the love we had, the laughter and the connection. Yes, there was pain, but there was also hope. I realized that moving forward would require both of us to be committed to the relationship, to nurture it and heal together. Our therapy sessions continued, and as time passed, I found myself slowly letting go of the anger and resentment that had consumed me. I learned to express my feelings more openly and forgive Rachel, not for her sake but for my own peace of mind. One evening, after a particularly emotionally charged session, I looked at Rachel, who was sitting across from me, her eyes searching mine. "I think I'm ready to fully commit to this," I said, my voice steady. "I want to try rebuilding what we had, but it's going to take time." Rachel smiled, the relief evident on her face. "I'll be right beside you every step of the way. I'm determined to show you that I can be the partner you deserve." As we wrapped our arms around each other, I felt a certain lightness in my heart. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was willing to walk it together. We had both made mistakes, but we were also learning and growing, taking ownership of our actions. In the end, I realized that love isn't always perfect. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes downright painful, but it can also be a powerful force that drives us to confront our demons and seek healing. I had learned that relationships require constant effort, forgiveness, and a willingness to be vulnerable. While the past could never be erased, we had the power to shape our future together. As we stepped into this new chapter, I felt a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could emerge stronger than before. And with that hope, I was ready to embrace whatever came next.